I just finished episode 1 of Hard Knocks. This is You Don't Know Ball. I am just going to be reacting episode by episode of the Hard Knocks series that drops every Tuesday on HBO Max. I'm a Bears fan, so honestly, this is something that's very exciting for me because I feel like the Bears, for the longest time, have liked to stay out of the spotlight. They don't want extra attention. They want to really control what gets put out and, definitely controlling what gets put out on HBO, but I think they kind of have, I would say, probably a little bit less say. So I just have some notes that I took down, and I'll get right into it. As always, if you don't know ball and want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, let us know in the comments what your favorite moment from the Hard Knocks episode was today. So just to start it off, this is kind of just going to be, I don't know, like a string of consciousness. I'm not going to really break up the video, but as a Bears fan, getting Caleb Williams in the draft and seeing him so geeked up as a number 1 pick, as most picks are, if you're number 1, it just, I don't know, it always gets me geeked up. That was just my first note. But I thought it was also funny when they were talking about Caleb Williams and they ended up using Big Cat's voice. I don't know, like I never thought that they would be using, someone from Barstool's voice in it. It was just kind of funny. But those are just little notes I had to start the episode. But kind of the main point I want to get into here to start off the video is when Eberflus was talking to the team, right, at the beginning, he seems way more sure of himself. And I try to watch as many press conferences as I can with Matt Eberflus, anybody on the Bears through the Bears YouTube channel. And he made like a really interesting comment. I want to say it was either yesterday or the day before. And he basically said that, like, obviously when he first started coaching, being a head coach, right, for the Bears, that it was tough. Like, he was learning how to be a head coach for the first time. And I'm sure when anybody does anything for the first time, it's kind of scary. And, like, especially when you're not in a good position to succeed. And Ryan Poles tore down that roster. And it's what Ryan Poles had to do. But to be a head coach for the first time, to be in one of the third largest market in the United States for football, and your team sucks, like you have to face all of that scrutiny. And you're going through a rebuild. The people on the inside know what it is. But there's only so much you can really do with the talent that's given to you. Now, I don't want to defend Eberflus to the end of the earth. There are definitely some decisions that he's made that I have not agreed with. But at the same time, like, similar to a lot of the quarterback situations here, he was kind of set up to fail. Now, with that being said, basically what I was trying to get at was he just seems more sure of himself. And I'm actually going to jump to another point I have, because I think it was funny when they were showing Eberflus getting the fade and they were talking about his glow up. But I think that really, and I'm not trying to get too like deep film analysis here, like any of that bullshit, but I do want to say that, like, I think Flus being able to be who he really is and, like, have that more confidence and, get this look. He honestly just looked kind of dorky. And I don't know. Like, you look at Shanahan, you look at McDaniel, you look at Dan Campbell. Like, these guys just look cool. They have that appeal, right, to their players, right? Like, they want to be able to relate to their players. Andy Reid's just his own character. Basically, what I'm saying is Flus feels more like he is just himself and a very confident coach of this team. It feels like after 2 years, he feels a little bit more comfort. And I think that goes to show, like, even with the beard, the new haircut, everything like that. But I thought another interesting point in the show was when he's talking to Nick Saban, who he used to work for, about developing quarterbacks. And Saban basically says that expectations can ruin a young quarterback and that they need to be able to be developed without their confidence getting ruined. That's not like the quote, but basically along the lines of what he was saying. And, I've started to talk with some of my friends about this the last couple years, I would say the last 2 years, is I'm really willing to bet that more quarterbacks or just players in general are ruined based on their situation than lack of talent as a player. And let's look at Bryce Young, okay? And let's look at Anthony Richardson, right? Anthony Richardson, far more raw coming out of college, okay? But one of the better play callers in the league. The Colts have a pretty good O-line. They have weapons around him now. And although he did get hurt last year, it was some promising moments in there, right? And I think people are a little bit less ready to call Richardson a bust if he doesn't play amazing this year, right? Whereas you have Bryce Young, who gets drafted to probably the worst situation in the world. In the NFL, in the world. In the world is crazy. In the NFL, Adam Thielen's your number one receiver. Your O-line is there. You have an old head coach who didn't work out in Indy, didn't work out in Carolina, so we know that it's just not the best situation. But because Carolina traded and participated in one of the worst trades in NFL history so far, that heightens the expectation for Bryce Young regardless of his situation. And the reality is, like, Bryce Young could play, let's just say average this year, a little below average. And I feel like the call for him being a bust would be so, it would be so loud. And it's really not fair when you really look at the situation he was put into. And I think that's a big thing for Caleb. Number one pick, Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer, right? They have never seen success at the quarterback position. There was a whole civil war with the Fields fans on Twitter, and, you know, it lives on social media. But my point is, Fields was a pretty below average quarterback, and he made some exciting plays with his legs, and by no means was he set up to succeed in Chicago. But you could tell how starved Chicago Bears fans are for good quarterback play because they were willing to pass up a prospect like Williams for another haul to keep Justin. When we know that if you're not the best quarterback in the league or one of the best, you're not winning the Super Bowl because you can build a super team like the 49ers have, and you're still not getting through 15 in Kansas City. Like, that's just the reality of the NFL, in my opinion, at this point. So to trade away the number one overall pick, get a haul, build your team, and then run it with a below average quarterback, like, there's still a small group of fans out there that would prefer that. But with that being said, the expectations of Williams because of that are heightened, because if he doesn't play well, right, and let's say Fields starts in Pittsburgh, maybe not right away, but things ain't working out with Russ. People are going to be like, well, we should have kept him. We could have built around him. Now, luckily, the Bears have solidified a good amount of talent in the wide receiver room for Caleb and have improved the O-line by a lot. I'm not going to sit here and argue that, but it is definitely a better position at center than it was last year. So I think having Saban have that conversation was very important, obviously for Eberflus, obviously for, you know, the team and all that. But I think it is important for everybody watching as well, because I think there are a lot of crazy expectations for what Caleb will be this year, and that's not really fair to put on him. Like, he's going into the best situation a number one pick has probably ever been into, but he's still a rookie. He still has his flaws. He's still going to make mistakes. And when you're in one of the biggest markets for football, you're in a team who's been starved for quarterback talent. You traded away a quarterback that a good amount of, I will say, a decent amount of the fan base really loved. And I really like Justin. I just didn't think he can get it done at the quarterback position. the expectations and pressure that is going to be put on you is going to be monumental. And I think what Saban said should be something that a lot of football fans and especially Bears fans should take home and know that you cannot expect a world out of Caleb Williams year one. You can't. Maybe not even year two. CJ Stroud is an unfair comparison. What CJ Stroud did does not happen. It doesn't happen. So I think we just need to be patient with Caleb. I think that part that Max put in with Saban was very important. Yeah, so just the next part, I really enjoyed the Theo Benedict rookie hazing or whatever you want to call it. I think that was really funny with the American Eagle Speedo. Unfortunately, we saw he pulled his groin, or no, not groin, hamstring, Speedo. Yeah, hamstring, and he's going to be out for like 4 to 5 weeks, they're saying. And that's kind of where like the depressing part of Hard Knocks comes in. And this is something that, you know, they have really reeled back on. Like they used to show players getting cut, and now they don't. But 4 to 5 weeks, I believe he's I think he's an undrafted free agent, and the 20 grand is great. But when you're an undrafted free agent, you really, really, really have to prove yourself and make the most of every rep. If the team can't see ya, when those cuts from 90 to 53 happen, technically I guess 54 if you're counting the extra quarterback this year, I mean, it's really not going to be much of a thought, right? Like we didn't see you play really. You're not getting practice time to improve with the team, and we got to cut down by quite a bit, almost half our roster. So upsetting. I think that is kind of a reminder that like these guys, like, you know, have lives outside of football. Like these guys are people too, and like you could see the contrast from the $25 million signing bonus that Caleb Williams got and the $20,000 signing bonus that Theo Benedict got. Like, you know, a lot of these guys are fighting for their livelihood. And $20,000, yeah, you can say, oh, that isn't, you know, that would change a lot of people's lives. But, you know, this is their livelihood. So it is really upsetting to see, you know, a character that people probably really enjoyed early in the show kind of go down. I believe he'll probably be on the practice squad. That would be my guess, right? Another player, Colin Johnson, I think with my light just went out. I think it is very exciting to see a player like that because I feel like for a long time, the Bears never really just took chances on guys during the Pace era. And I think during the Poles era, one of the big things he's done is he's always tried to bring in like guys who have always had talent and have just never worked out. You can look at it with Leatherwood with the Raiders, right? He just took a flyer. And all you're doing with these guys like Colin Johnson are taking a flyer. If Colin Johnson can make this team as the last receiver or even just contribute on special teams, which in his press conference said the coaches said they're going to take him out and he wanted to stay in. He wants to prove his spot on this team, and I think that's something that the coaches are going to value, and I would not be surprised if Colin Johnson makes the team. Something that I think they'll do later on in the series that I was kind of a little bit upset at watching it was really feels like Rome got overshadowed. Like Rome Odunze is a very, very talented prospect, a top 10 pick. And because Caleb Williams is a quarterback and he's the number 1 overall pick, like of course they're going to make the first episode probably about him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got away from it a little bit. But it's still upsetting because I think Rome has been really overshadowed by, you know, the Caleb Williams pick and, you know, the bringing in Keenan Allen, signing DeAndre Swift, and just all these other additions that the Bears have made. When in reality, from a long-term standpoint, Rome and DJ Moore are going to be the cornerstone pieces of the Bears offense. And Rome is a very talented player. He was taken at number 9. So I would like to see more Rome in the upcoming episodes, which I think they will do. I think it was cool what they showed with Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles. Like, it's really cool that Bears let him go and it was cool to show to see him like supporting her at home. But kind of my last thing here. Well, I got two last things, but one of my main last things I want to talk about is the DJ Moore extension. Okay, I thought with what they showed with Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, I think whenever Ryan Poles does something, I think he's very intentional with what he's trying to show to players, right? DJ Moore had 2 years left. He wasn't, he didn't need to get extended now, but they get ahead of the market. That's wrong to say. The market is already the market. It's expensive for wide receivers, but they get in front of the market before they had to, right? So they can get DJ Moore is going to be cheaper by the time that official extension kicks in than a lot of other receivers, right? I think he's the 7th highest paid receiver. Anyway, they basically show that if you come in, you do your job, you produce, we will extend you early because we care about you as a player and want to make sure that you can take care of your family. Obviously, this isn't happening for guys that are on the roster bubble. That's not the case really anywhere. But if you come into Chicago, you produce, you do everything you're asked, we will reward you. And I think that was a very, very cool thing to show. And I think that's been a big part of what Ryan Poles has tried to do here in Chicago is, make it very apparent to players that if you do your job and if you do come in and be part of our culture and you work hard, we will reward you. And yeah, I mean, the slip and slide was also great. But overall, I did enjoy the first episode. I think it was a little slow, just because it is the intro episode and everything, but really loved the opening scene when they were on the boat. They're showing all the historic Chicago moments and everything like that. But overall, yeah, I'm really excited for episode 2 as we get closer to the season. I'm trying to suck in as much football content, absorb as much football content as I can to get ready for the season. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like. Let me know what you thought of episode 1 in the comments. It's been a while since I made a solo video, so I'm going to try to get back to them as the season comes along. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night.